you know, part of what happens now is this 9 days of mourning, and then there will be a decision made in the coming days by the cardinals about when they will hold a conclave. Explain what that process will be like, John.
Well, so what will happen, and we actually expect this fairly quickly. I mean, generally speaking, they would wait to set the date of the conclave until after the funeral. But then after today, they will want to set that date pretty quickly so they can begin the logistics of putting the conclave together. We're expecting it somewhere in the neighborhood of May 5, 6, somewhere between May 5th and the 10th. And in some ways, the conclave preparations are already underway because the main instrument through which the cardinals get themselves ready are these daily meetings that are called general congregations. They take place here at the Vatican in the Synod Hall. And this is an opportunity for cardinals to come together, in part to talk about procedural matters, but also to talk about issues facing the Church, maybe the unfinished business of the Francis papacy, and the kind of man needed to carry things forward. I should also point out that aside from those general congregations, you know what else is going on, Nora? You know what you have to do while you're waiting for a conclave to start? You gotta eat. And so cardinals in 2s and 5s and 10s and 20s are getting together for what, you know, those classic Roman pranzo and cena, lunch and dinner, and around dinner tables, which is where everything in this country actually gets done.
Yes.
They're having those same conversations, but much more frankly and informally.
And it's very important, actually, especially with Francis's pontificate, because he has nominated so many new cardinals from countries that don't normally have cardinals, and they are cardinals who then therefore have not actually been to Rome that much or don't know each other, and that's going to be an aspect of this conclave. And so those lunches and dinners are going to be probably even more important, that they have an opportunity to really listen to somebody. You may have heard of Cardinal so-and-so, but when you sit down, like we were saying before, you sit down and talk to them, you get a feel for them.
Yes.
And you know, we shouldn't underestimate the importance of that.
There were, when Pope Francis was elected, there were cardinals in 48 countries. Now there are cardinals in more than 70 of those in very far-flung places that have never had such representation in the past.
And not necessarily men with a whole lot of experience. Sometimes Francis would take people who really weren't, hadn't been bishops for very long or hadn't had a lot of, because he liked the pastoral, so he liked the priest who was suddenly thrust into becoming a bishop and a cardinal.
And this is where now the cardinals and their distribution of where they were from. And John, as you have remarked, of course, it used to always be that Europe was the majority. It is no longer now the majority, and there has been much growth in Asia and in Africa. And I do this, while this is Pope Francis's day and a day to remember him, I do want to point out that we've had some cardinals do blessings in the last several days. And those cardinals happen to also be at the top of the list. And I think we have a graphic that shows who those 3 cardinals are who have given blessings over the past several days. And these are the front runners of the so-called popefuls, if you will, including Cardinal Tagle. Yes, say it again. It's the
Papabili.
Yes. And so describe who are some of those. Of course, we have Cardinal Parolin, who is the Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Cardinal Tagle of the Philippines, and he is sometimes called the Asian Francis, right?
That's right.
Yes. And then Cardinal Pizzaballa. How could you forget that name?
Yes, which, of course, literally in Italian means pizza dance. I mean, if he gets elected, if you can imagine the dancing pizza memes that we are going to see, it would be absolutely phenomenal. Sure, I think on anybody's short list of contenders, those would be 3 names.
And what about Cardinal Pizzaballa?
Yeah.
He is the youngest of them.
Yeah.
That's right. He's the Latin Rite Patriarch of Jerusalem, so that makes him the top Catholic in the Holy Land in the Middle East. And therefore has been in a position of having to navigate the Israeli-Palestinian problem, gets high marks for the way he has done that. And I think there are a number of cardinals who think, well, if he can do that, he might be able to be the man who could help the Church deal with its own internal divisions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he would be a very interesting choice, perhaps a bit young. Cardinal Parolin is a top runner because he would be seen perhaps as somebody who, after a very busy pontificate as Francis has had, bringing in changes and lots of movement, the idea is that in tradition they tend to go from the fat pope to the thin pope, and so you went from a Pius XII who was an intellectual, an aristocrat, to a John the 23rd who was very pastoral, and the history shows this. So the thinking is you might go back to somebody who's a bit more calm and centered and not doesn't have too much of his own things to accomplish or big personalities.
I think that word calm is the key phrase here.
The cardinals felt it too.
I think left, right, and center, there are a lot of cardinals who think that they would like to have fewer thrills, spills, and chills than they did for the last 12 years.
And then finally, Cardinal Tagle of Philippines, who is an elegant speaker, one who many people say is inspiring in a new way, and of course is from Asia.
Yeah, that's right. And not just Asia, but Manila, the Philippines, the third largest Catholic country in the world and probably the most practicing Catholic nation, a place where the faith is extraordinarily dynamic. And Cardinal Tagle puts a face on that dynamism. He is an extremely gifted public speaker. He's great with youth.
Had a lot of experience here at the Vatican.
And now a lot of experience here at the Vatican. So there is a kind of an attractive package there. Yeah.